It should ask.
All right, there we go.
All right, we're good to go.
Good to go.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Talk to Danielle podcast. I am your host, Danielle C. Baker. And before we get started with today's guests, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow to whichever channel you're watching or listening to. And today I have a really, actually, I'll say a fun guest. I always say amazing guest. I'm trying to change my vocabulary, but it's actually really fun. We got to meet, and I don't know how we ended up meeting on Facebook or Instagram, but an amazing person with an incredible life. And I just had to have him on to talk about what he does. So I have Ricardo Wilkins on today. Thank you so much, Ricardo, for joining in.
Hey, Danielle, it is a pleasure to be on your podcast and be speaking with your guests. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you so much. So before we get started into what you're doing now, can you tell us a little bit of your backstory and how you got to where you are now?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to. I'm from the United States, Maryland. I grew up in Maryland, DC area. I worked in the government until last year for like 20 plus years as a contractor, and pretty much just my whole life just always played it safe, always stayed in the comfort zone, a lot of limiting beliefs. And maybe like 8 years ago now, I kind of just realized where I was at in life, and all my friends were their careers were advancing, and I kind of just realized what I'd done. I was stuck in this okay position, wasn't challenging, wasn't inspiring. And I was just like, what do I do? And I was like, what do I do to advance my career? And I was kind of like, I wasn't depressed. I still had a good life, had fun, but I was just like, I felt stuck in this job, and I wanted to make more money, and I wanted to advance in my career. Then I read this book called Positive Intelligence, literally changed my life. And it just changed my perspective on how I saw myself and the world. And I realized all the things that society said we're supposed to have in a career and a job and a 9 to 5, like I realized that wasn't for me, and I didn't want that. So that just kind of propelled me several years of just diving deep in personal development, stepping forward, taking chances, growing, learning in a lot of different ways, just doing a lot of different things, just putting myself out of my comfort zone, but also that were rewarding. And maybe a few years ago, 4 years ago now, I realized that, I cannot stay in this job any longer. I have to do something else, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And one thing I could control was my health, and I was always interested in health. And it's kind of like this convergence. I learned about this really unique area of the body called redox biology, redox signaling. And also my travel, when I went and volunteered for 2 months in Cartagena, Colombia. And that was just a really transformational experience. And those two things kind of not collided, but just happened at the same time. And that was 4 years ago, which really propelled me to where I am now.
That's amazing. And I like that you mentioned that, because a lot of people go through that. I went through it myself, that comfort zone where you're just like, well, I've got nothing to complain about. I've got a good job, I got some people have benefits, but it's just not enough. And you don't want to talk about it because you're thinking people are going to think I'm ungrateful. But that area where you're just like, it's not enough. I'm not feeling this. So, and now it's the complete opposite. So that's what I want to get into now. I grew up in that environment where I called it the nomad life. And I don't want to offend anybody on this, just to know that my mom traveled all the time. We had to follow her. So to me, I understand it. And I was like, yeah, let's do this, but some people may be afraid of just saying we're picking up and we're leaving. So what are the challenges or fears that you had to overcome? Can you share some of us when you decided, okay, I'm doing this, I'm gonna, I'm living my purpose. How was that for you?
Yeah, so let your listeners know, my partner, her name is Ruthie. We're nomads right now. We've been so for about 1.5 years. And I think it's just, we traveled a lot. We would take a few international trips a year, travel throughout the United States. And we just something that we really love to do. And during the pandemic, she worked in healthcare, so it was a really challenging time. At the time, I worked remote. So we just said, you know what, let's travel across the United States and check out a lot of the national parks. We did that. And then we had a few international trips, like short trips, I got fired from my job about a year ago, which is really, in some ways, a blessing, I think. So that just kind of like opened things up. I went back to Cartagena, Colombia, to volunteer, the both of us, and we didn't really set out. When we initially set out to travel and move out our place for that time period, the intention wasn't to become nomads, but I think we just really fell in love with it even more. I fell in love with travel even more, and we just we didn't even talk about it. It was just like, so what are we doing? It was just like, just keep it up, just keep going.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest challenges that we've had is just, practical challenges, just like where's our stuff, just the planning phase, just not having things, not having a home, having things at like my parents' house or family members' house, just, and where we're going to stay when we're at home, just certain uncomfortableness, just having to stay with other people sometimes. But in a lot of ways, we're so inspired by it. I think we're unconsciously competent when it comes to travel. We just, not even knowing it, we set our life up where it's very easy to travel. We spend most of our money just on travel. It's just, it's something that we're inspired to do, and just take a leap of faith.
Yeah. I'm going to throw another question at you on this one.
Sure.
It's kind of impromptu, but because I know a lot of people are going to want to know this, but how was it received for your friends and family? We're just like, yeah, we're going. So what kind of feedback did you get?
That's a good question. A little different from everyone. My parents are pretty like, okay, they kind of just settled on the fact that, I'm just going to live a different life. I have, different intentions in my life. My partner's parents, a little bit more, okay, when are you all settling down? I think, but for the most part, everyone's been really supportive, and really, I think it inspires a lot of people, honestly. It's something that we didn't expect. A lot of our friends and our family have just been like really encouraging and opening up their homes to us. Maybe if they're traveling, so we can house sit for them. But for the most part, it's been really, people have been encouraging us to do it.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, because there's a lot of people sometimes that are more afraid of what people will think, and then that's why they don't make that decision. So I think it's good to know that there's people will support. They might question it, but they'll support it. So it's
Yeah.
Exactly.
Every now and then we'll get the from print. So when are you all gonna stop doing this? Like, what's the plan? Just like, when we're ready to settle, we'll settle.
That's it. And who knows where it will be, but we'll settle somewhere. Exactly.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
it. Yeah. And of course, when you travel, because you're not traveling doing the all-inclusive resorts and stuff, you're actually, visiting, you're meeting people. And this is what I love about the traveling thing is what kind of wisdom or advice that you've gotten from the people and the places that you visited that really stuck to you. Anything that sticks out?
Nothing as far as advice, nothing really sticks out as far as advice, like something poignant, someone that said to me. But I do think that just meeting other travelers and people that love to travel and just sharing the insights the common insights that we have just about life, what's important in life, and just how travel a lot of times just breaks boundaries of what we hold so important. And we realize like it's okay to hold things important, but just a lot of times it's what we're told was supposed to be important. And when you travel and seeing people living differently, it just lets you know, just again, like how you see the world isn't the end all be all. I will say actually this past weekend we were just talking. Had a not way deep into Amazon. We did a tour in the Amazon, and our guide, who was really, really wonderful, he was talking to us about a few years ago, he spent 2 months with a really remote indigenous tribe in the Amazon that still live as hunter-gatherers. And something he just kept reiterating that how simple and relaxed their life was, because they didn't, they just lived off the land and everything they had was provided. And they not having money. He just kept saying money wasn't important. Money for them, it wasn't important. And so their life was just easy, a lot easier.
Yeah. That's what I like about that too. I've met a group where it's just like money could change. It used to be
Yeah.
seashells, now it's this, now
Right.
it's paper. So
Yeah.
we could just barter, or we give one time, and then when we need, somebody else will give. So it just, yeah, there's no
Yeah.
stress on finances. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah. That
want
was
to
really
die. I want
interesting.
Yeah, that's good. I wanted to kind of dive into what you do. You mentioned earlier you got into the healing part of things, and you're a big advocate on how you can protect, how we should protect ourselves from toxic environments and that.
Hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about what it is, and then tell us what we should be paying attention to in terms
Sure.
of, yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I would say that, well, first, I'm not an expert in this field. I just want to let your listeners know
Mm,
I'm not an expert in this field. However, just like a lot of people, just coming across information, learning about different things in our environment, and particularly what encouraged me or inspired me to write my book. So I'll focus on what I learned from this documentary called Stink. And it was
mhm,
about a father who had lost his, a few years prior, lost his wife to cancer. And he came across some pajamas. He purchased some pajamas for his daughter, and he noticed a really strong smell that smelled like a chemical. And having lost his wife to cancer, he was,
mhm.
he wanted to investigate it just to make sure it was safe, and contacted the company to try to get understanding what was in it, what was it made of, what was the material. And he couldn't get an answer, and he was being
Mm,
stonewalled. So that just kind of led him to creating this documentary called Stink, which focused on the how it's I'm not going to say unregulated, but how loose the regulations were as far as things that are in a lot of cleaning products,
mhm.
cosmetic products, and a lot of chemicals that go into these intoxicants that go into these products. But because of labeling loopholes, things that are really
Yeah.
harmful to individuals, like carcinogens, things that affect hormones, respiratory system in the body, and how this correlates to the increased disease and chronic diseases around the world. And for example, fragrance, the
Mhm.
ingredients fragrance, that's a loophole that companies use in conjunction with, like, set up by corruption in the representatives, specifically in the United States, where fragrance can include a plethora of ingredients, and it's not regulated, and they don't have to disclose what's included in fragrance. And a lot of times it's these harmful chemicals and toxins that are
Mhm.
dangerous to everybody.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, it's just like natural flavoring. That's the one.
Yeah,
When you see
yeah,
that as an ingredient, be aware. It's you
yeah,
don't want to know how
exactly.
natural. Don't want to know how
Yeah,
natural it is. Yeah.
yeah,
No, that's amazing that you did write a book, and it's out now, I believe. It just came out. What Before we get into what the book is all
sure,
about,
sure.
what got you to write it? What made you decide? Okay, I'm doing this, because a lot of people think about writing a book and they're just kind of like, I don't know, but you just like, no, I'm getting this one done. How did
Yeah.
that happen?
So it comes out January 10th. It comes out January 10th. I probably pushed it back 3 times now,
Okay,
but actually that was it was one of those things where, well, I'll get in that later. But where it seemed like it was bad, but it actually turned out to be good.
good.
And it's really, this book is, for me, is really a personal development journey in a lot of ways. Because if you told me even, I don't know, a year and a half ago that I'd be writing a book, I would just be like, there's no way.
Yeah.
And I really are grateful to a gentleman called, his name is John Gray. He's a professor. And last year he invited me to participate in an anthology book
Mhm.
called Power Talk, about a group of men, just about motivation, our stories, and encouragement. And when he initially asked me to do that, he said, my initial thought was, oh, I can't do that. But now, just through years of, changing my story, I knew that not to listen to that voice like I would in the past. And so I
Right.
participated in that. And then watching this documentary called Stink, I just got, my frustration about how these toxins are harming people's environment. I knew one thing we can control is our lifestyle. And for the
Mhm.
last 4 years, I've been teaching people about this area of science and a product that's attached to it. And I was interested in it because it helps protect our health, protect the body. And I just figured I'd take all my 4 years of learning and just engulfing myself in this material in a condensed, short, introduction for people about this function in the body that most people are unaware of and can be hard to grasp a lot of times. And we all know about vitamin C and stem cells and DNA. These things that were once unknown are now known. And so I wanted to just do my part in a book for people to just learn a little bit more.
Mm. No, that's interesting. Yeah, and I know what you mean about getting it out. It takes a while. There's always some little surprises that come your way,
Yeah,
and I know.
yeah,
Yeah, so I'm excited to. We'll get some information later.
yeah,
If
yeah.
you want to, can you give us a little bit of a teaser of what what you do?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a great analogy that I heard regarding, Wayne Gretzky, who's from Canada. So he's a former hockey player, probably the greatest hockey player of all time. And they asked him, why is he so good? And he said, because he doesn't skate to where the puck was or is, he skates to where it's going. And this but the topic of my book, this area of science and health, redox signaling, is where health is vast and is very researched, and is where health is going in the future. So that's just a little tease about the contents of the book.
That's awesome. Yeah, and of course he had to mention Rain. He's like he's like a national icon for us. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How do you find? Because I mean, you're traveling, you're working, you're writing books. How do you find the balance in your life between all of that, with family, if you're traveling, with the work that you do?
That's a great question. I don't have kids, so that makes it a lot easier. A lot of times. I just kind of just do it. I know I don't even, when I think about like how do I organize it? And I think it's when I mentioned earlier, I just kind of like unconsciously competent when it comes to travel. We just kind of figure out a way to live our life in traveling and just doing the things we need to do. Much of everything I do is on the computer and remote. So from that standpoint, it's easy as long as we have Wi-Fi. Sometimes the Wi-Fi is not too strong, but you always figure out a way. And when obstacles and things come into play, I've been learning to lean into like everything's okay. And, just life is just, we just look at our life, there's always obstacles, there's always challenges. And if we just can accept that and not just kind of really can control it and just go with the flow and know that moment that, that moment, generally speaking, there's degrees, but this moment will pass, this obstacle will pass, and you can learn something from it. So I've been really trying to lean into that more as far as with everything in life.
That's nice. Yeah, that's very helpful. Is there any advice, if you could share, something that you wish you would have known sooner that would have made your life easier? Do you want to share something, advice or wisdom that you wish you would have known back in the day?
Yeah, I love that question, because this is just a realization, something I knew, but a few weeks ago I had just a realization of how to really accept this proverb that goes, what is bad, what is good. And if we step back, most things that we label as bad or good are just labels, and it's because we were told these things supposed to be bad or good. And a great example is my book. I had 2 different dates that I was set to release, and because of just Murphy's Law, things happen. They then I had to push it back, but I've come to see that it was supposed to be that way, because I've learned things each time. I learned things that I was able to incorporate into my book, change that I hope and believe it made it more consumable, made it more just a better value for the readers. Even literally, I have somebody, a friend, helping me with the book and the formatting. And maybe 2 weeks ago, I sent him, he was like, okay, this is the last version. And after that, I just had like these downloads where I removed the total chapter. I included at least one paragraph at the beginning of every chapter. It's only 10 chapters, but a new paragraph at the beginning of every chapter, just again, I think it made it a better book. And I would have never have happened if, you know, these obstacles and I didn't push my date back. So I would tell myself to, you know, just you have something to learn from everything, even if it's quote unquote bad.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Yeah, I'm learning that as well. That's sometimes it can be a blessing in disguise, and
Yeah,
just go with it. If it's happening, there's a reason for it. So
yeah,
that's
absolutely,
great. Yeah, people need
absolutely.
to hear that. I'm glad you shared. What have you got going on? Because now you got the book coming out in January, and that what's new? What's next? What else are you gonna? What else are you working on, or what else is coming?
Sure. So I love to travel. You know, we've been talking about travel. I've had really a transformational experience for myself in my life, volunteering abroad. And while I was traveling earlier this year, I came across a travel coach program because I wanted to do something in travel because it just inspired me so much. And I didn't want to be a travel agent or do tours. I didn't feel called for that. So I'm gonna start working on something called like immersive volunteering for people that were like me. You know, I was in a job I felt stuck in, I wasn't inspired by, but I didn't know what direction I was going to go into. I didn't know what was next for me. And when I went and volunteered and just immersed myself in that environment and the challenges that came with it, I grew a lot, and it just helped me. I didn't necessarily find, like, I didn't have a aha moment of what I was going to do next, but I got what I needed to move forward in life to bring me to where I am now. So aside from a book, that's something I'm gonna really focus on moving into the new year.
Oh, that's gonna be fun. That's gonna be a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
I do ask this question all the time. It's a promise I made to a little girl because she asked me that question when she was interviewing me. But I told her I would ask everybody because I think it's a fun question. But so that question is, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Oh man, I want to be. This is not maybe a tangible what I want to a tangible profession, but I want to be an inspiration. That I think that's what I want to be. I want to, whatever I'm doing in the world, I want to be adding value to people, and I want to be of service to people, and I want it to be an inspiration for people to, I like to say, be healthy, be inspired, and live free. A life that they design on purpose.
Yeah, oh, I like that. That's what I like about that question is it is really an open. It's not like when we were little where we said, well, I want to be a firefighter or like
Right. Yeah.
it's open and I love the answers I get every time I ask. It's different every time and I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yeah. Thanks.
I could talk to you all day because you have so much insight on things, but I wanted to see before we end the podcast, how can people follow you or contact you if they want a little bit more, if they want to see when the book comes out? Do you can you share if you want? I'm putting you
Yeah.
on the spot there, but share how people
Yeah.
can follow you,
Yeah.
contact you.
Yeah, absolutely. Facebook's a great place to find me. Facebook.com/Ricardo.Wilkins. It's a great place to find me. I also have a website, RicardoWilkins.com. So that's easy. I'll talk a little bit about my ideas in immersive volunteering. And it's also a link to my book, which you can find at Ricardo's new book.com. And it would also be available on Amazon.
Oh, that's amazing. And I'll put that information in the comments in the description so people who are watching or listening can get a hold of it. So I
Great.
want to thank you so much for coming on. And I didn't mention this in the beginning, but Ricardo is joining us from Ecuador
Yeah.
today. He's on his last leg of the trip. And I think that's just amazing. So if you want to keep following his journey, make sure you look at the description or comments and join in. So thank you. Thank you so much again. And I can't wait to see your book. I'll make sure to tag people as well once it does come out. So thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. And I'll send you a copy in the mail. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much. So again, thank you, Ricardo. It was very inspiring to see how you how you're living your purpose. It's really amazing, and thank you for sharing your story. And for everybody who is watching or listening, again, make sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the channel that you're listening in, and make sure to follow Ricardo to see what's new and upcoming with him. And until then, stay safe, stay awesome, and we'll talk soon.
All right, bye everybody.